Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stories That Shape Us podcast. My name is Joanna Daniel. Today, I'm talking to somebody I met a couple of months ago in a book club, Mr. Owen. And Mr. Owen's going to talk to us about what it's like to be a single parent as a dad, because we tend to meet single parents that are female, that are women. We're going to talk to Mr. Owen about what that journey has been like. But Mr. Owen is from Kingston, Jamaica, and he likes to claim, he claims that even though he doesn't, he currently lives in Florida. He spent 17 years as an academic advisor. He raised twins 10 months old, from 10 months old, and they're 30 years old now. Twin, a boy and a girl, Mr. Owen.
Right, that's correct. Fraternal, yeah.
Yeah, my twins are a boy and a girl too.
So you can relate,
If you hear things in Mr. Owen's background at this time of this recording, there is a storm that is threatening Florida, and so I'm sure many things are going on the outside. So we thank you for taking the time.
Pleasure.
There's something I want to tell you about Mr. Owen, though, that I find really incredible. Mr. Owen did a 300 miles run walk. Was it last year you did it?
No, this year.
This year you did it.
Yeah, February, March. 8 days.
8 days. Did you sleep, Mr. Owen, during that
No,
time?
I just kept moving, running. Of course I slept.
I want to know, like, where did you break up the journey? Like, how much did you walk each day?
We had rest stops along the way at certain intermittent point. So my average day was like 35 miles.
Wow.
Some days a few miles less or more. But for the most part, it was that kind of mileage. I was covering ground for like 30 miles. Like the first 2 days were like 60 miles.
Whoa.
And that's why on day 3, I told my team of inner circle of supporters, I can't go on. My feet are going to fall off. They're on fire.
Wow. That's what it felt like.
And then, I can go on into that, but I know that's not the focus here. But in the book, when the book comes out, it will be chronicled in detail, man. Everything.
I'm looking forward to the book. Mr. Owen's writing his book about telling us this story about, what that was like. But what's incredible is that Mr. Owen was raising money to support the education of children from his alma mater in Jamaica, Haile Selassie High.
Mm-hmm.
And he raised $5,000. And I thought that was so amazing. Yeah. Did so much good. So we're looking forward to your book, Mr. Owen. I would love to have you back when your book is finished.
Perfect.
But today we're talking about what that was like. I'm talking to people who have done amazing things, because sometimes they're ordinary people that does amazing things, but we never get to hear about it. And I think one of the extraordinary things is on your own, a single dad, having a job and raising twins. What was that like?
So let me just, from the outset, make it very clear. So I don't want to glamorize this too much and think it was just a fairy tale walk in the park, as you will imagine, obviously. But just so it's clear, and this is a confession of sort. When they were conceived and I was told that twins are coming, and Lord, every day I pray about this for forgiveness because it was not cool, I told her to abort because I did not see how it would be possible to raise one, let alone two, given my situation. And to her credit, one day she hears this, she said, no, that's not going to happen. And then with that, I signed on and proceed with the journey. It came, the irony of it. If anybody wants to know what is the meaning of irony, this is irony. When they were born, and for the first 2-3 months she was around, come month number 5, 6, she vanished. I was the one taking care of the kids. And guess what? I embraced it with the purest joy I've ever felt in my life. I could not imagine life without the twins. I couldn't imagine. And every day, people would see me without the kids and they'd be like, where the twins are, as if they have become my identity.
Yeah.
I don't know where they were because everywhere I went, they were with me. So in other words, yes, I was thinking abortion, but by virtue of her saying no, and I embraced that, I was the one who eventually took care of them because, ironically, she was not around, and I embraced that with the purest love that you can imagine.
So you got into the spirit of it really quickly. She said
That's
no,
correct.
that was her decision. She made that decision, and you go, okay, so I'm gonna be a father,
Yeah, yeah.
and here we
And
here we go.
it was painful. I mean, when I used to take the kids to get their shots, I've seen families in the waiting room, and I can't forget this. I saw one lady with about 4 or 5 of kids. I'm like, about the same age they look like, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
asking her, how do you do this? And she told me a system that I use. She said that certain functions has to be regimented, such
Mm-hmm.
as when they go to bed, fixed
Mm-hmm.
time. When they get up, fixed time. Breakfast or meals, fixed homework. You have to fix certain routine because if not, you will go insane.
Yeah, yeah, I
Other
agree.
things
I
can be
agree.
flexible, but that was one of my survival techniques. I have to make sure that when we get up like clockwork, literally, to do certain function. But other things, there was some flexibility, of course.
Yeah. So you had set routines that you follow,
Had
and
to,
I agree with
religiously.
I agree with routine because it makes the children know what's coming. It settles them. Everything is predictable, and I think children needs that. I have twins, and with my twins, my sisters were here until they were about 2, and
Right.
then I had 3 kids under 4. Routine
Hmm.
saved me. Saved
Believe
me.
me, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can give you testimony about the value of routine. Long live routine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Long live routine. It really did.
yeah.
I'm thinking of my own father, and maybe he would have risen to the occasion, but with so many of us, my father can't. He can barely cook, bless him. So
Hmm.
how did you manage? Did you know some of these things already, or did you have to learn them on the job?
That's an interesting question because my I was raised by my stepmother. My mother, she was away, God bless her, with 3 of my siblings. So that was her entire life as far as raising 3 kids by
Yeah.
herself. So just to make life easier for her, I was shipped off to my dad, who died only at my age. I was only 3 years old when I lost my dad. So I
3.
didn't even
Wow.
know the man. I can't say I have any memory of the man vividly. I don't. Then so I met my stepmother, and it was not the best experience of a step parent. But I'm not going to judge because I don't believe in doing that more so in the aftermath. Because you're the point now to your question. I was forced to learn certain skills as punishment. How to
Wow.
cook,
Right.
iron clothes, do the
Right.
laundry. Those are deemed as okay. Since you're not really my child, these things you're going to help me do that. Clean
Right.
floors. I was basically given domestic skill training because I was at the mercy of the step parent. At the time,
Right.
I rebelled and I was bitter. But in retrospect, to your point and question, it prepared me to becoming a parent on my own. Is that
Because you had
amazing?
those skills. You had those
Exactly.
skills, or even though you learned them under challenging circumstances,
Precisely. I did.
they came in handy when you were a single father. And the stories that shape us podcast, it's interesting because those are some of the experiences that you had that shape your ability to
Hmm.
father and do some of the practical things of
Exactly.
parenting, some of the
Except
practical
one though, Joanne. One skill I thought about going to a school to learn it. I couldn't get her hairstyle right. She be like, Dad, don't touch my hair. I'll get somebody. I couldn't get it right. They would be sticking out like horns. They would stick out like horns. I'm like, I gotta admit, that skill, I needed professionals to come in to assist me with that one.
So you had to outsource some of the
It's not
things.
outsource right, Joanne. I gotta outsource
You
it.
had to outsource some of the
Yes.
things. So
Believe
what
me.
what what were some of the challenges that you encounter in being a single father?
You know what? In a way, the challenges were self-imposed because I have paranoia about my kids' safety and well-being, especially my daughter, because of the world we live in, as you know, John, very well.
Yeah,
The world we
yeah.
live in, there's always the vulnerability and the risk pertaining to being a young child and the
Hmm.
craziness of what goes on. So me, even by my nature, I'm so overprotective. It became almost an obsession that was not totally helpful. However, it kept them alive.
It did.
It kept
What
them
what makes you
safe
said it wasn't helpful though? What makes you say
because you need, like I was saying today in the read, the wildebeest kid from 5 minutes, they can run. I
Yes.
think we cuddle our kids too long and too much, if that makes sense.
So what would you
I
have done
was
differently?
because I would have given, like for example, I would never let them go to Jamaica, especially my daughter, that
Right.
young, because I
Okay.
had such an experience in Jamaica, which is another podcast, where I survived to the election, the Civil War election of 1980.
The
I
80s.
mean, not just as an onlooker, I mean, as an insider being affected by it. I could have lost my life 3 times, Joanne.
Wow.
3 times at gunpoint or knife point. And somebody would just say, hey, I know him. And that saved me. God lost my life.
Mm,
So every
mm,
time
mm,
Jamaica comes, I can deal with Jamaica now. I know how to deal
mm,
with Jamaica.
mm,
But with my kids who were born here, my paranoia was like, and I deprived them of a cultural
mm.
experience. So that's why I'm thinking
I
that in a
see.
way it went too far.
Right, because I don't know if it's paranoia. It's your lived experience, and you're saying I lived this experience, and I am really worried that if I send you on your own, then these things are going to happen to you as well, and I don't want them to. So it's kind of like if you know it's raining and you're leaving home, you're going to take an umbrella, won't you?
But to be fair, they had family members on their mother's side there, so they would
Mm,
have been fine, and they know they didn't live in some kind of ghetto, rundown, crime-infested neighborhood. So they're
mm,
fairly safe, decent neighborhood. But I just could not come to terms with letting them go out of my sight for a week or two on a summer vacation. I just didn't. And to me, I kind of deprived them culturally because you know Jamaica, it's a great experience when it's good.
absolutely,
Great
yeah,
experience. The food,
yeah.
the mangoes, the fruits, the time, just the different mood.
Mm,
And I
mm.
deprive them of that. And to this day, they always, give me grief that, Dad, why? Why?
Why? Why didn't you
Yeah,
let us go when we were 13 on our own?
exactly. So, yeah, that was not cool. That was not cool.
They can make the trip now as many times
Of
as they
course,
want.
yeah,
Yeah,
of course. If
as
you're
many,
29,
but
30 years old, you can go now.
yeah, the experience will still be the same, you know?
This is the Rojo. They like the accent. So at this age now, it's hard to pick up the accent naturally.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
they
yeah.
think the accent is now cool, like, oh, Jamaican accent. And as you know, our culture is an international, it's a global
Oh yeah.
culture. So everybody think that Jamaica is cool, they're the fastest athletes in the world. We have the bobsled team, that's crazy, but that's so cool. We have the music, we have Bob Marley. So all of those things in pop culture makes the culture cool. So now they think that I deprived them for real of real good living.
Of that experience. They'll be fine. What because you said that's a challenge that you experienced and you felt like
Yeah, yeah.
in retrospect you would have made some different decisions.
I would have at least go down there with them then. That could have been done.
Mm,
I could have
mm,
traveled with
mm,
them.
mhm.
But it's just the idea that, like, I mean, like, really, to this day, I have flashback about what I saw as a little kid.
Well, of
I
course.
saw in Jamaica, like, it's just horrific. But it's not that bad anymore with the politics anyway. Crime, yes, but like everywhere else, but you just know where to go. But that was
Mm,
it. I mean, the other thing was that difficult for me to juggle was not only was I working, but I was going to school at the time. I'm a what they call a non-traditional student in the state. So I was going to the University of Florida getting a bachelor's degree, and it's like a 40-minute drive. So I have
mm.
to drop them off at their school, drive all the way now 40 miles away to the university, come back, pick them up, get my homework done, get their homework done, get meals done. It was really a juggling of several balls at the same time.
I am sure. I know many people, Mr. Owen, who struggle with that. They can't,
Yeah,
they
that's
just
hard.
struggle to do it. Did you have family nearby that was helpful?
I did not, but I did have some volunteers from the church community, God bless them, would step in and say, I will keep the kids for a certain time, and so on and so forth. And
Oh,
they
that's
did that,
good.
and to God be the glory. But for the most part, it was on you. But the funny thing, though, and every time I do this, I sort of try to analyze what did I do to survive that time. I
Mm,
don't have a real answer. I really, really don't. I think sometimes the divine is involved in certain things that you can't explain it. We did it. We survived, clearly. Because there were times when I was doing a voluntary, in addition to doing all of that, I was a volunteer at a juvenile prison. I'd go in there with my poetry workshop to assist these bad kids. but quote unquote, to get them rehabilitated using poetry. They loved it. But I did it also as an earning because they'll give me kind of like a stipend to do it.
Right.
And so I was
Right.
like, nice, cool, to supplement my financial aid. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I had to also leave the kids alone a lot during the week
Mm.
anyway. But then
Mm-hmm.
come the weekend, that's our time.
Okay, right. So as they grow older, you had to leave them a lot,
Yes.
as well. Yeah. So my next question is going to be about like the emotional impact of the emotional challenges. Like, so when people are single parenting, like a woman single parenting, people will encourage, especially if she has a boy, men from the church community to take him
Mhm.
hiking, take him fishing,
Right.
do things. Was there anybody that did that as a
I
mother?
did. I did because I realized early on, maybe because I did not have much of a parental presence of my own, I
Mm-hmm.
understand what that void felt like.
Yeah.
I naturally was like, okay, I didn't take it as something as a curse for me, but more
Mm-hmm.
like lessons that I can tap into and say, I don't want that for my own kids. So
Mm-hmm.
we didn't do expensive stuff like going to Disney. We did a few Disney. The simple thing like going to the park, playing on the slide, the
Mm.
swings, playing ball. Simple, inexpensive, cost-free things were done to create bond with the kids and myself. That was all that I would really do. In effect, as you might suspect, I personally had no social life. None.
I
Zero.
bet.
And it was okay. My
You were
point is
okay with that.
I signed up for this and I felt blessed doing it. I enjoyed doing it. And I just ran with it until they were old enough to like, okay, Dad, we don't need you anymore. Okay. We don't need you anymore. But
We,
emotionally, that was how the connections were made. And then later
mm.
on, I'll tell you about my poetry. Are we almost done, Joanne?
No, no, we can go on in
Oh,
a few
cool.
more minutes. I'm
Cool.
really looking forward to hearing your poetry because I wanted
Yeah,
to hear about the emotional side of it. I mean, the bit that you told me earlier about you not having a parent really,
I did not.
anybody that was loving, and here you are having the ability to understand what emotional connection looks like and to sow that into your children.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. How is it that somebody who has a vacuum in his life, zero presence of emotional, in fact, the first time I experienced affection in the purest way from an adult was when I was graduating from high school in Jamaica, and the member of parliament, somewhat like the British system, by the way, as you know, was
Yeah.
the guest speaker at the function. And I was giving the valedictory address. I was the valedictorian. And she came over
Hmm.
to me, Joanna, and gave me a beer hug, a hug so tight, so loving and protective. That was like 1979. To this day, Joanna, I swear to God, to this day, I can still feel the residue of that affection. Isn't that
Oh
amazing?
wow,
I
wow,
still, because she was
wow.
the only person I know to have ever, not even a parent, to have loved. Jamaicans, old school,
They
the
don't know how
boys,
to do it. Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't. They don't. So I don't judge them. But I remember that, and I carried those residues, if you may, from that person into my life as far as what do I do with my kids? Because I know the pain of it, but I also have a brief
Mm.
transient experience of being loved unconditional without any strings attached. And I loved it.
That's so amazing because I teach, as you know, in Zoom
Mm-hmm.
every day, parents around building secure connection with their children, and these are
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that we teach.
That was it.
But one of the things I know for that to be true is that when we've never been loved, there's a vacuum. So most
Yep.
times, unless we fill that vacuum deliberately, we do not have love to pass on to our children. And so there's this generational pattern of brokenness that gets passed on through families. But here you are saying, I have this resource and experience, and it's
Yep.
one time,
Yep.
but it
One
was so
time.
impactful to me
Yep.
that it stayed with me and helped me to know what
Right.
emotion feels like. And you were able to pass on connection to your children when you never had it in your formative years. So
Never did.
it can be done.
He never did. And just one time. Because it was so sincere. This person is not doing this for photo op or for the cameras. It was just like that's how in fact she's called a hugger in Jamaica. God, that's how she is.
Ah, right, right,
Yeah,
right.
she's a hugger.
There was no social media to put
Oh
this
God, no. Oh,
image on image,
oh
the
no.
image on. No, those
Uh-uh.
social
Yeah,
media.
yeah. This
So
was
she
not
was just
cosmetic. This was really substantively how she feels. Because that's a part of how you identify her. Oh, that's her personality. She's gonna hug,
yeah.
hug trees, whatever. you know, no.
She's a
Mm,
hooker.
yeah.
But another thing is that Mr. Owen, the adversities that you had didn't stop you from excelling academically because you said
Oh
you were
God, no.
valedictorian.
Yeah, yeah. I love school. I mean, I love reading. I'm sure as you. I mean, so it's something about the world that fascinates me in a book. You know, in fact, by the way, it took me a long time for me to move from comics, which I love with the pictures, to read
Yeah,
the
yeah,
book
yeah,
with just words. But when I
yeah.
made, and the first book that did that for me was Roots. I don't know if you ever read the book Roots, based
I
on the movie.
haven't, I
Oh,
haven't
it's
read it.
a
No.
big book, but if you've seen the movie, you need to read the entire book. And
I
that's
won't.
what,
I won't watch the movie. It's one movie. I remember when it came on
yeah,
in Jamaica.
right.
I think our TV was black and white, and I'm sure my age a little, but I didn't want to watch it. It was just too
yeah,
emotive, too much
yeah.
for me, and so I couldn't. And so
It,
I don't know if
it,
I'll read the book because it's just too much. It's too much. So for those reasons, I probably wouldn't. But if there's a book or a movie, I prefer the book. I prefer
yeah,
reading the book. It's always better.
I just love the idea of all of my senses are involved. So the visual, the emotional, the audio. When I can get all my senses as audience, oh, I like that. All my
As
senses
all
are in
as audience.
audience. Something's gonna stick, Joanne. Something.
Yeah,
Either my ears are
yeah,
gonna remember, my eyes are. Somebody's gonna remember this. It will not be forgotten.
yeah. But
And yes,
you
engage all
said
the
you
senses.
engage all the senses. I like that, but I let my imagination do the work. I prefer letting my imagination do the work.
What
So
point? Point taken. Point taken.
I mean, and one last thing before I let you tell us about your poetry.
Mhm.
You have broken some stereotypes about fathering, about
Yeah.
black fathers, about Jamaican fathers. They just
Mhm.
have children and off they go. You didn't see this as a anything that was going to shackle your life. You saw it as an opportunity, and you dived in because you thought my experience was this, and I don't want my children to have the same story. It would have been so easy for that generational pattern to pass on, and you went, no,
Mhm.
not my children. I'm breaking this so that they will have a different template to move on with. And I think that's so amazing.
Here's a confession of sorts. So I don't think I've ever admitted this on any device or any medium, which is that I was on the brink of committing suicide when my kids were taken from me. That's back in the what was that? The 90s. Because they were born 95. So
Really?
90, yes. I
How
thought
old
about
were
it because
they?
they were like 10 months. So they were
Yeah,
taken from me to be with their grandmother in Jamaica because it was just difficult for me to manage them by myself. That was when their mom and I went our separate ways. So that was the
separated.
reason why.
Yeah,
So
okay.
they took them, and I'm walking the streets of Atlanta like a crazy person. And a poem came to me. It's called God Won't Give Up on You. May I? May I share it?
Yes, please. Yes.
He's been knocking up on your door to give you a place where life means more. A place you go when you're feeling down, you might as well just sink in the ground. But if his name be lifted up, he will bring all men and women to the mountaintop. And when that Satan tries to seduce, just give him the palm he has to rebuke. Because God
Mm.
won't give up on you. God won't give up on you. Living our lives in hell and swear to God we're living well. We try to run, we try to hide. Some of the time, some suicide. But the mercy of God came gushing down and gave me a reason to hang around. God won't give up on you. God won't give up on you. And now I can feel His. From the worries of the world, my life must ease. I can swim the seven seas. My faith in God is my remedy. Don't turn your back on Calvary. Just feel the power as He sets you free. Because God won't give up on you. But just don't you ever give up on Him. And that saved
Wow.
my
Wow. He gave you those
life.
words.
Yeah, yeah. It was one of those rare moments when the lyrics and the text just came. Very seldom does that ever happen. I have to do
Hmm.
rewrites and rewrite. Not this time. This was almost like unedited. it's yours.
Flowed. It just,
Saved my
it
life.
just dropped those. He just
Yeah,
gave that to you.
yeah, it saved my life. I mean, I have a lot to live for. What am I doing? I remember calling my mom and she was on the phone. By the way, my mom passed a few months ago. I don't know if you were in the book club at the time. She
No, I
passed.
wasn't.
Yeah, okay. So she passed in April, March, April of this year. She
Hmm.
passed. I remember when she was well, she called me or I called her and I told her what I was going to do. She Jamaican start. Wow, Sonny boy, you madman? Yeah, you did that way. What are you gonna do? And she really talked some sense into me. God bless her. Rest in peace, mom. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I
Rest
was
in
really
peace.
thinking about this in the worst kind of way to take my life. So much strength have I received from these lyrics that I don't think I'd ever go back to that age ever again. It
Hmm.
has really strengthened me enough to like, wait a minute here, God won't give up on you. So why am I giving up on myself? Think about
Yeah.
that. Why am
Yeah.
I giving up on myself when God won't give up on you?
The grief was so deep that,
It was.
yeah, the
Yeah.
grief was so, but you got them back, and then you made
Yeah.
it work.
Yeah. Is that amazing? I didn't want them. Before they were born, I didn't want them. But even when you're raising a life, there's something powerful about that, as you know, as a mom.
Mm.
Something about that you're almost as if you become co-creator with the
Yeah.
creator because he's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to entrust you with these lives, and you don't want to mess that up. You
Yeah.
don't want to mess that up. And that's why I was so afraid and petrified to send them to Jamaica because then I have no control. God knows. Then my PTSD is kicking in. I don't
Oh
want to do
yeah.
that. I don't want to do that. And next thing on my watch, something bad happens.
I don't want
And
anything.
maybe, no,
Don't
no
want
harm
them to
come
have
to them.
my experiences.
I don't, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that was that. But you mentioned a quick point earlier about my daughter. I want to share a quick story with you about that, where I don't know, a poem comes in. So she was about 3, maybe 4. When I asked her about it, she has no memory of it. This is what happened. So I'm in my study, getting ready for some exam, whatever was going on. Bang on my door. I'm like, what do you want? I was angry. That's what I'm told. I'm like, what? Because she's always having fights with her twin brothers. I'm like, what am I going to do now to referee this fight? And
Mm.
she said, in a soft, tiny voice that no matter how cold your heart is, it'll melt you. All right, how hard, how hardcore your heart is. She
Yeah.
said to me, I miss my mom.
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
wow, whoa, whoa, exactly. So right there, Joanne, I'm like, but you don't know your mom. You've never seen your mom. Well, you have no memory. You must have seen. You've never had any contact with your mom. That's in your
Consciously.
memory.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But she understands missing a mom, though. I guess she
Yeah.
talked to her friends. She sees them with their moms, so she understands that missing. And
Yeah.
right there and then, Joanne, the poem came to me. I dropped everything I was doing. Everything I was doing, everything else became inconsequential. She was the most important person in my life right now.
Hmm.
It's called Carry On. I hear the pain in her voice. I see the fire in her eyes. And I feel the ache in her heart that yearns to be a part of a love that's rightfully hers, to be strong for her when she's weak, right for her when she's wrong, there for her when no one else cares. And just those little moments mothers and daughters share. But right now, she's alone. She's alone in the park where shadows are dark and her life is on the brink. But carry on, carry on, carry on. And it goes on and on like that, but it's a bit long, so I won't bore you with it. But that's the reaction that, to me, to this day, the bond that we created is unbreakable. It cannot be broken. It cannot be broken. You cannot break that bond because my response to her was not to say, leave my room or some kind of nonsense like rebuke. I didn't rebuke her. I embraced
You
her
responded to the need, and you
appropriately.
met the need as best as you could. I mean, I felt that, my heart broke a little for the 4-year-old who
Yeah,
I
I
miss my
missed my
mom,
mom. I
though
couldn't
there's
call.
no. Yeah, and you couldn't call anybody and say, you're gonna see her on the weekend.
Yeah,
You,
yeah,
you, here is something that you wanted to give her, but you couldn't give her because it's not in your power to give her that. That's
That's what I
powerful. I love it.
said. What's interesting, like when I go to places to perform a poem, even I had a juvenile group of boys. These are offenders, and once I performed a poem for them, I couldn't believe this, Joanne. I saw this dude crying. This is a guy, crying. This is a female-centered poem, but he obviously could relate to it. He
Yeah,
was in
yeah.
tears. And what is shocking too, as you know, all these things go when it comes to prison. If you're a male, you can't show emotion. You can't show sorrow.
Mm,
Even
mm,
with his peers around him, the stream of tears
yeah,
came down like, wow. And so whenever I take her with me to perform it, and she sees the reaction, and they'll ask, is she here? I say, yeah, here's Simone. And they go with her all like trying to comfort her. She's like, I'm okay now, really, I'm okay.
mm,
But she kind of enjoyed the attention, but also a case of her seeing how much I value her, that I've
yes, yes,
documented this in poetry form and shared with the world to say, hey, all that you're going through, carry on.
yeah.
Love it.
That a significant moment for her, where
Mhm.
you met that deep emotional need, and she saw that it resonated because other people
Yes.
have that need as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, that experience is not unique to you, Simone. Even though we're
Yeah.
not trying to discount your experience, now. We're not
No, absolutely
discounting
not.
it.
Absolutely
No.
not.
But we're saying that there are examples of there of others who have survived and thrived. Maybe they have some kind of some best practices that they have used that they can apply
Yeah.
to her. But she never really dwell on that deprivation, though, Joanne. She never dwell on it, to my surprise.
Mm.
And what's interesting when I talked to her about, by the way, if you, if we were able to have this session tomorrow, I could have brought her on the call. I know you'd have
Oh,
loved that,
look at
right?
that. Look at that. Look at
You'd
that.
have
Look at that.
loved that. But because they brought it forward, I'm like, because guess what? She
Yeah.
wanted to go shopping, get new clothes. Baby, this is the Oprah show. What are you talking about? It was something that she has to be dressed up for and all spruce, we're getting her hair done. No, it's not like that, very relaxed. But yeah, she'd have come on to get you some kind of primary source experience as to what it was like for her.
Maybe she'll come on her own and we
One
can
day,
talk about
we
and
can arrange that. We can
we
arrange
can
that.
talk about that. I'd love to have her
Yeah.
and talk about that. What as we wrap up, Mr. Owen, what would you say to a single dad raising his children, or a single dad who's having to take on primary caring responsibilities for a child? What would you, from the lessons that you've learned,
Right.
what are three lessons that you could give him that he would be able to carry on?
Let me give you that. Let me respond to that in this way. I'm going to read a poem for you that was written from my daughter. She has a daughter of her own who's almost 9, gonna be 9 in December. And this is funny. When she was conceived, 2 months, 7 months before she was born, I went to look at the ultrasound, and I could not believe what I saw. And once again, Joanne, I gotta pray for myself about this. I said to her, I said, "Boo, are you sure about this? About this birth, this pregnancy?" And I'm implying abortion again. Here I go again. And
Yeah,
she said,
yeah.
"No, I'm gonna get this. This child's gonna be born." When I saw the ultrasound, Joanna, this is what happened to me. 7 months before you were born, we were introduced. Without words or sounds, I watched spellbound the movement of God speaking to me through you in full view, as one of his own unveils the beauty and mystery of Ariana, that's her daughter's name, Odyssey. And assured by that journey, I was no longer torn. You shall be born. So I reached out to touch the tiny signals, listen to your quiet voice, and stare in the unfinished stars in your eyes that compels me to follow every step of your feet, every pulse of your heartbeat, and every journey your hands shall reach, and every unspoken word your voice will ever speak. I shall follow you, because I am no longer torn. You shall be born. You shall be born with the gifts and blessings to inspire minds, transform hearts, and infuse the Spirit of God who reminds us, this is my beloved, in whom I'm well pleased. And as you take your place in the world, never lose sight of your Nubian beauty. Never lose sight of your birthright of greatness. Never lose sight of your heritage of courage, even if you have to stand alone. So keep going, Ariana. Pave that pathway of excellence, and the world will follow your lead.
Absolutely.
Granddaughter was the one who saved me during my run walk because on day 3 she said, "Go, Papa, go."
Go,
Here we
Papa,
go
go.
again. So to answer your
Mm.
question directly, every waking moment I tell my kids from they were very young, especially my daughter, because the pressure is really worse for her in the society as far as
Yeah.
expectations and
Yes.
beauty and all this stuff. You are beautiful. Tip number one, every waking moment, even your sleep, I'm telling them, you are beautiful. You're a beautiful African princess. Let that be like a program in her mind that anytime they try to tell her otherwise, she can say, pull out the file. I
Yeah.
know I'm beautiful. That's
Yeah.
tip number one. Number two, any chance you have to go to an event where she's doing her thing that she enjoys, dance, a recital, a poetry, play a game, make it a job or an assignment or a mission to be there. Be physically, visibly there. And number
Yeah.
three, look, if you've messed up, have the courage to tell that child, your daughter, forgive me, I was wrong. Do you
Mm.
know how humanizing that is? To hear
Powerful.
for them to hear you say, like, yeah, on that score, I was wrong. I apologize. I thank you for that life lesson. I'll do better next time. Because I've had a
Yeah.
few moments when I got to do that with her and said, hey,
So
that was not
important.
the right thing to do. But when you feel like when you're safe enough in yourself and you have that bonding, which is going to be better, by the way, by your
Yeah.
being so human to show that, hey, you have faults too and flaws, but and therefore you can say, ask for forgiveness. Those things, I believe, are the most important things.
Yes.
The
Crucial.
money, the luxury, all the abundance of love, materialism, those things don't really matter. They're not enduring. Man. They will remember, how did you treat them? How did you regard them? And those things, those three initiatives will underscore how you're treating them. Telling them
Absolutely.
forgiveness, telling them that they're beautiful, and telling them I'm bonding with them by going to their event whenever you can. To be continued.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Mr. Owen. Thank you. I think, I love poetry and I love listening to yours and I love the stories that came before the poetry. And I'm thinking I'd love to read that book, the story, the poem, the story, the poem. I think that would be amazing.
Guess what? You're a genius, Miss Joanne. So guess what? The book gonna be a combo of prose and poetry.
Ah, look at that. So
So,
I'm looking
so
forward to
the,
it even more.
so the first 9 chapters, prose. Just the journey, the saga, the odyssey, prose. I'm prayerful with some insight. I don't know if I can channel Jim Rohn or James Clear, but we'll see what happens. And then the last chapter now, chapter 10, gonna be just poetry of my kids, my grandkids, and surviving different moments and different people.
Love it. Love it. Looking forward to it. And thank you for coming and sharing your journey with us of single parenting, 2 kids while you had your profession and you were studying and some of the challenges.
Mhm.
And I hope that the people whoever is listening will be able to take insight from your journey, apply to their lives as they're doing, parenting in whatever capacity that they're parenting in. So thank you again for coming, Mr. Owen.
And thank you for the good work you do on so many different levels, the podcast, your counseling session, the book club, your speaking tours. God bless you. Keep on doing great work. And I'm sure I'm going to see you on the world's biggest stage one day.
One day. See, I'm claiming that. I'm coming in agreement with that. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Pleasure. You
And thank
deserve.
you for joining us in this episode of Stories That Shape Us. I hope you'll join us on the next story.